Hello, my loves. My name is Jordyn Smith, and I am the voice in the astrologer for this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Conscience. Today is February 16th, 2025, and I am going to do your weekly astrology forecast. Um, there's a few things that I'm going to go over pertaining to this week. Might jump around a little bit. Some days are just kind of um not much going on. Other days there are things going on. So I'll hit the high points. Um, Before I get into this, what I do want to say is if you are an Aquarius and you haven't booked your birthday special yet, you have 4 days to do that. You don't have to, I want to make myself clear because sometimes it can get confusing. You don't have to book a birthday special within this, like for this week. But you do need to book it by the 20th, and then it's going to switch over to Pisces. Um, but as long as you book an appointment before the 20th, you're okay. You could book it for 6 months out if you wanted to. It's your birthday special. So again, as long as you book it by the 20th, you can get that, birthday special price. The other thing that I want to mention, that I've mentioned before is that um, the Jeffrey Wolf Green Evolutionary Astrology Association is about to start its new class series. It's now live on the website. I will post a link in the description for you guys. Um, but this new class series is going over Venus and sexuality. And on March 1st, there is going to be a uh, introductory class that is free to all, and all of the teachers will be there, but it's going to be led by Kristen Fontana, Jason Hawley, um, Michelle Dinch, and Ari Moshe Wolf. Excuse me. And if you're wanting to know what this new class series is going to be, or what's going to be talked about, that introductory class is a good one. And like I said, it's free. And then that's going to be, like I said, March 1st at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I thought it was 11, but they moved it graciously because I am actually doing a workshop that day. And it was going to interfere, and I wanted to be there. So there's that. And then the next following months, every third Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific time, a class will be held going over Venus and two signs, so polarizing signs. And the first class will be Kristen Fontana and Jason Hawley together. They're going to be going over Venus and Aries and Libra. And then the second class in April will be yours truly going over Taurus and Scorpio. And then Ari Moshe Wolf will do the next one going over Gemini and Sag. And then it will be Michelle Dinch, who's going over Venus and Leo and Aquarius. Uh, Actually, before that, it'll be Rav Shahal going over Cancer Capricorn, then Michelle Dinch, Leo Aquarius, and then the final class will be Rose Marcus going over Virgo Pisces. And I'm really excited about this class series. Again, I'll post the link in the description for this. I'll post something on my website as well about all of this for those of you who wish to sign up for it. The other thing I want to say is you can purchase the annual membership. It's a really good price. And if you do that, you get the whole class series, but then you also get discounts for different workshops or different classes throughout the year that other evolutionary astrologer teachers will be teaching. And then there's also the message board, and there's also group tutoring and all sorts of things that are included within that membership. And I love EA. As you all know, this is, the type of astrology that I do through the lineage of Jeffrey Wolf Green. Amazing teacher. And um, I love EA because they try to make things affordable. all of us know um, the times that we're living in, and money can be strapped. And, I feel like the membership for the JWG Association is just, they do a good job about making things affordable. So I wanted to put that out there. And so without further ado, let's jump into your weekly astrological forecast. Um, so I'm going to share this chart and point out a couple of things to you, and then uh, you know, we'll do it how I always do it. So this is interesting. I want us to keep in mind this week I'm going to go more over the moon a little bit because it's pretty active. Um, but today the moon is in Leo. It is ruled by Venus and Aries, and the moon is throughout the day going to be in conjunct this Saturn and then eventually the North Node and Neptune. Um, And we need to pull in Venus's ruler, Mars retrograde in Cancer, who is ruled by this Venus. The other thing that I want to point out with today is the South Node, the lunar South Node, is in conjunct the Sun and Ceres. South Node is ruled by this Mercury, and the Aquarius energy is, ruled by this Uranus and Taurus, which again is ruled by that Venus. So these are the things that I really want to speak about for today. So let me stop this and I will talk about this. So this is very interesting. The other thing that I didn't point out is that the asteroid Cassandra and Mercury are both in Pisces, and Mercury's in a new phase to Cassandra today. Um, so let's break this down. I want to start with, first off, I've gone over this, that South Node, North Node, um, Virgo South Node, North Node, Pisces is all of the things coming up, prior dynamics on a collective level and on personal levels, depending on where this nodal axis is falling in your chart. That South Node is speaking to like the apparent dynamics that are coming up from the past that we're needing to make new choices about. And so it's all about purging prior dynamics, making new choices around this in order to improve. And that North Node and Pisces is really speaking to the choices that are needing to be made around these areas. And that Neptune conjunct the North Node is really facilitating this process. Again, if you want to know more about that, you would want to look at where your natal Mercury is in your chart and your natal Neptune in your chart to give more context about what exactly does this mean for me. Um, I love giving examples. For me, the South Node is transiting through my fifth house, and it is ruled by my natal Mercury and Capricorn in the ninth. And so, if you've noticed, I have been making new choices around creative ventures within my own purposeful work. Purposeful work is a Virgo dynamic, and the creativity function is that fifth house that South Node is falling in. And for me, my Mercury is in the ninth house, so and it's in Capricorn. So I'm wanting to make new choices around how I'm structuring how I teach. I've been putting out more videos around the archetypes and the goddesses and doing things behind the scenes to like business wise, right? Very Capricorn, the things I don't like to do, which I find funny because as much of the Capricorn I have in my chart, that is something that I am like really working on. So like taxes and, you know, um, financial things, like the things I don't want to do, quite frankly. But I'm making choices around these areas in order to improve the structure of how I teach and how I'm creating. And, the North Node in Pisces is falling in my 11th house. I'm also really liberating from these old dynamics of for me personally, that North Node is ruled by my Neptune and Capricorn in the eighth house around different forms of authority or authority figures in my life that where I felt like I wasn't good enough to be able to do the work that I'm doing now. So it's really confronted me with those kind of illusions. And I've been utilizing the Virgo energy to take things just step by step, where I once wasn't making choices and I was making excuses around purposeful work. It's like I'm really wanting to consciously utilize this energy. So you can see how this can really play out in your own natal chart. And I hope my own personal example is helping you to understand how that really works and facilitates this process. So let me get back to this astrology going on. So with that South Node in Virgo, now being ruled by Mercury and Pisces, this is an interesting dynamic. Transiting Mercury and Pisces. Mercury is like our left logical linear mind and how we structure different dynamics and how we classify and the types of things that we gravitate towards to learn. And with Mercury and Pisces, it's interesting because it can be this trigger point of bringing up these South Node and Virgo issues around where we might be having confrontations and feeling disillusioned by even our own thinking, especially if our thinking or how we've, constructed our belief systems might not be rooted in reality, like actual reality. We totally are seeing this play out in the collective right now. And on personal levels, it can be just these minutia areas because it's dealing with this Virgo energy. But what I love about a Mercury and Pisces transit is no matter what, this really has this higher calling to really um, tap into the right intuitive side of our mind of releasing old mental constructs. Uh, Pisces is also, you guys have heard me talk about it, is about, pure emotion. And what I've been finding out lately, because I've really been thinking about this astrology, like, okay, I've had these personal things go on in my life with like family and different dynamics, and I tend to want to understand why and like overthink and overanalyze all of these dynamics. And what I've realized is it's more of a way for me to not feel the emotional dynamics of what comes up where I might experience grief or pain or sadness. Um, and with Mercury and Pisces, it's giving us an opportunity to just allow ourselves to um, release more of the logic, the linear, and allow ourselves to just let emotions wash over us. And it's interesting because as I've even been working with this energy lately, I've just been giving myself permission to not try to analyze everything that comes up and to just feel it, to let it come wash over me. And through releasing that like left logical part of my mind, what's been happening is as I just sit with my feelings, I realize, especially with Pluto and Aquarius right now, that it gives me a chance to just observe, to be an observer in the present moment of whatever's coming up for me. And then this really special thing happens. All of a sudden, I'm having intuitive insight to the questions that I was so much trying to analyze about my own emotional dynamics coming up. And so I really feel like this Mercury in Pisces is asking us for that because as we do that, it helps us to improve our intuition and our ability to tap into something that really has nothing to do with the left logical linear state of mind. And there's some other signatures throughout the week that speak to that I'm going to get to, especially with like Jupiter and Gemini. But this can really help us to purge these dynamics. We live in a world where everything is very much based around logic And this Mercury in Pisces is like, hey, hard pause. Let's not intellectualize or try to logically understand everything that's going on inside of us and just allow ourselves to feel whatever it is that we need to feel and then to trust and have faith, Pisces, that if we are meant to know something about our dynamics, it's going to naturally be seeded into our consciousness. So I wanted to speak to that because it's really reflecting this. And in regards to Mercury and a new phase conjunction to Cassandra, Cassandra so much deals with how we express ourselves, our own inner knowledge, speaking truth, and our own inner relationship to self, where we could have these um, painful dynamics around expression or um, especially whenever I'm saying something and it's rooted in a truth and speaking the truth and no one's hearing me and no one's believing me and how that can really, really be painful. And I feel like with this Mercury conjunct Cassandra and Pisces ruled by that Neptune on the North Node, it's really giving us a chance to heal these dynamics, especially around where we might have over-identified with how we were thinking about these prior wounds. And when we are consciously working with this, it helps us to really surrender to what our expectations were around when we expressed ourselves and things didn't work out the way that we wished, we hoped, we wanted. And it's about just sitting with whatever comes up. And I feel like for some other people too, this Cassandra and Pisces, especially with Mercury and a new phase to it, is there can be a lot of people right now that are wanting to help and be good stewards. South Node and Virgo, ruled by that Mercury. And there can be a lot of new intuitive information coming in that's rooted in natural law or, things that are timeless in nature. And it's giving these bursts of inspiration and ideas around ways that, these people could implement these different dynamics. I also feel like I talked about this the other week for some people who've been hiding because of the fear of being judged um, for communicating truth, this can really be where they're starting to understand that there can be a higher purpose or a higher calling and that they can't hide anymore or that they shouldn't. And the crux is maybe they don't feel good enough or ready enough yet. So we're really called to utilize the ruler of Cassandra and Neptune and Mercury, that Neptune conjunct the North Node, to start to relate to ourselves in a different type of way. Um, that way we don't have to hide anymore. And that's going to take courage. And that leads me to, um, you know, the moon in Libra, being ruled by that Venus in Aries and the Venus being ruled by Mars retrograde in Cancer, that's then ruled by that moon in Libra. They kind of all are symbiotically working together. And this moon can be bringing up these old emotional triggers around not being heard by others. That's this Libra function. Can also bring up emotional triggers, Mars and Cancer retrograde, where we didn't feel like there was reciprocation in relationships or where we experience these emotional wounds around injustices within our relationships. And what this is doing is it's triggering all of this content for the reason of wanting to promote healing because the moon is in conjunct that Saturn in Pisces. It's where we're really wanting to look at how these dynamics have impacted the structure of our consciousness. And then with Venus and Aries, it's really starting to put these seeds into our consciousness around initiating a new way of inwardly relating to ourselves. And so it's wanting us to kind of declutter and clear out these old emotional wounds um, in order for us to start to relate differently to ourselves. Other dynamic that can be coming up with this is these triggers where we're being confronted with how we relate to others or how others are relating to us. And I want you all to understand that um, Venus is about who and what we attract. And what we attract uh, really corresponds to how we relate to ourselves. And so this is a time where we can utilize this energy to really be objective, remembering that Uranus and Taurus is ruled by this Venus and Aries. It's this time where we can really, through our relational dynamics with others and like what is being reflected back at us, and then observing that dynamic and then observing how we are relating to others, it really gives us an opportunity to understand how we're actually relating to ourselves. And then, Pluto and Aquarius is ruled by that Uranus. So this is giving us this a big punch of energy to liberate from areas of, oh, I don't really think that I like that anymore, or that doesn't feel like this is who I am, or it doesn't feel like that is resonating with my individuality anymore. Pluto and Aquarius, ruled by this Uranus and Taurus, that is actually, they're in a trine right now. That trine is tightening up. It will, perfect whenever Uranus moves into uh, Gemini, but we've got a bit of time. This is giving us time to really work on these dynamics. But Pluto and Aquarius is like, I love this JWG teaching. It's like where we get to make a pie. It's like making a pie. Um, and Pluto in general, that's an Aquarius dynamic. Just bear with me here. Pluto is where we get to experience and confront on a very deep soul level our own emotional psychology of this is who I am, who I'm not, and who I absolutely do not want to be. And so throughout this week, we can have these dynamics of where we're relating to others, how others are relating to us, and then the emotional triggers um, that we're meant to just observe. So that way, intuitive content pulling in this, Mercury, Pisces as well, can come in and really help us to understand what's going on. And that way, we can really be like, that is not who I want to be, or that feels authentic to my individuality. And then that Aquarius energy of like making a pie is when we're confronted with those dynamics, we get to make a choice. Mars, right? It's being, really in the mix of all of this. We get to make this choice around, I don't really like that anymore, so I'm going to change that out. It's just like making a pie. A pie, you don't like how it tastes. Guess what? You tweak an ingredient, you know, you throw one ingredient out, you put another ingredient in, you change up the measurements. It's giving us an opportunity to transform how uh, we relate to ourselves and how we show up in the world as our own unique individual self. So there's that. And then lastly, for today, what I want to say is, um, Ceres is in conjunct the South Node. And this inconjunct is a gibbous inconjunct. So this is where we can have these kind of power dynamics, which really goes along with what I'm talking about. Gibbous inconjunct has a scorpionic feel. It's like there's something special here, but I can't impose my will on this anymore. And with Ceres um, in Aquarius, ruled by that Uranus and Taurus, this is where we can be, you know, being confronted with losses of friendship or community, or seeing this go on collectively, or even personally, or even with our own extended family members, of really having to confront how that could be having an impact on us on an emotional level and how we want to make new choices to improve upon how we relate to people and then to nurture that. That way we can start to attract different dynamics than what was before. For some people, this can be an actual crisis like happening. All of a sudden, things are gone in an instant. There's a loss. Like, oh my God, this person was my friend. Now they're not. Oh my gosh, this is happening. And what this is doing is it's really triggering this dynamic of throwing some people back in on themselves to look at where they need to improve um, different dynamics within themselves, how they relate to themselves. For some, this can be, victimization within their consciousness, feeling guilt, um, acting that out. It can also be where Ceres and Aquarius, some of us are just feeling this crisis within of feeling a core sense of alienation. I feel very different than the community that I'm in. And so with the in conjunct to the South Node and the South Node being ruled by that Mercury and Pisces, it's really wanting us to tap into the emotionality of it all. That way we can heal and start to vibrate on a different level, because then we get this information around, um, maybe why this is occurring. And it's teaching us lessons around our own individuality. And for some of us, this can be where we're really needing to just be a group of one if necessary during this time. And if we face that void, Pisces, of what was once there isn't there anymore, within that space and just allowing oneself to sit and be present in that, even if it's uncomfortable, a lot of information can come in that it can promote a lot of healing, and then a more transformative process can occur further. And then eventually we do start to attract the people that are meant to be in our lives, our community, our friends that resonate with the path that we're on. So I want you all to keep that in mind. We're definitely seeing this go on in the world right now, and the crisis within the loss of community and the disillusioning experiences around that and the trauma. And you know, what from the micro is the macro. So the things that we experience on an individual level are already being reflected within the collective unconscious right now, especially with all of the Pisces energy. I think also with Saturn and Pisces right now, a lot of us are feeling an immense amount of grief and sadness, and some are in touch with it. Some understand, even if it's not something personally going on in their life, it's really in the collective unconscious right now. And I feel like this is this time where we're needing to face the reality of what's going on. And that way we can start understanding how we can start making improvements, especially within community and coming together. So then, let's see here. Then on that's right, the 18th, we have Mercury semi-sextile to Venus, so it's going to pull in this Neptune. It's also going to pull in this Mars, this Mars retrograde. Um, and then we have the moon and Scorpio, and it's, trining Mercury. Um, yes, semi-sextile, trine from moon to Mercury. And also the sun enters Pisces. So let's talk about that. Excuse me, I need to take a drink here. Remembering what I said about, the day, the prior days, is that with the moon now in Scorpio, it's ruled by that Pluto in Aquarius. And this can really get us to um confront on a scorpionic level that these emotional psychological dynamics further, in order to do that kind of remaking of a pie that I was talking about. And as the moon is trining, Mercury and Pisces, what this can do is, for some of us, again, we could be disillusioned with ourselves. Some people are going to be confronted where they've had their own illusions around their expectations, or their own thinking about things. For some people, this can also be where they're being confronted with what has been hidden within on an emotionally psychological level. Um, and I feel like sometimes whenever we talk about this, it sounds scary or doom and gloom, but the way I like to think about scorpionic Plutonian energy is it really gives us an opportunity to understand ourselves deeper. That way we get to make a choice around, like, yeah, this is not who I want to be, and yes, this is who I do want to be. And then that's where the metamorphosis can start to occur, because once we become aware of something, that's where we can really start to have this healing. And I feel like with the Pisces energy that this moon is going to be trining, it gives us this opportunity to, as we confront, we can start to really promote some inner healing at a soul level. Um, and with Mercury semi-sextile to Venus, and Aries, this is really doubling down on that energy of, especially because the moon is trining that. It's like everything that we are working towards right now is to really change the ways in which we inwardly relate to ourselves. Um, I can't speak about this enough, because Neptune is that higher octave of Venus, and we're about to have this Venus retrograde. So it's seeding things into our consciousness that we're going to be reworking and reliving and resolving throughout the Venus retrograde period. But right now, it's like it's really showing us these are the things that are going to be coming up, right? Throughout that retrograde cycle. And with Mercury semi-sextile to Venus, it's where we can have an immense amount of awareness of just what it is that we're needing to take action on, where we're needing to make different choices, especially on emotional levels, Mars ruling that Venus, and what action we need to take in order to improve and to heal further the ways in which, yes, you relate to yourself, but also even external relationships right now. So that semi-sextile, it can create like a sense of inner pressure, because it's helping us to really acknowledge what needs to be integrated, the lessons that need to be integrated, the things that are needing to be released. So it gives this good opportunity. And then once Mercury ends up conjuncting that Venus, it like really helps us to start initiating this like at a quicker level, right? So right now it's more planting these seeds along the way, helping us understand the vision for the future. It can give us even these deep insights. For some, it's really going to be speaking to what purposeful work or ideas and inspiration are coming up that you might need to be initiating that revolve around the own resources that you carry within yourself. Um, and then let's see here. I'm going to show you this. And then again, the moon and Scorpio is going to trine, that north node, Saturn. It's going to be trining all of this. Again, ruled by Pluto. And then the moon is opposing Uranus, which is ruled by that Venus. Uh, and then we have this Mars retrograde. You need to remember Mars retrograde is ruled by that moon and it's trining. So it's in like you know, a grand water trine with all of this. Beautiful. So how I really see this being reflected is when we have an opposition to anything, um, that is like, yeah, it's speaking to we're needing to oppose something. Um, and I've talked about this. You can either oppose the past or you can oppose the future to come because it's giving an opportunity to make a choice. So Uranus and Taurus, how we're needing to transform our inner relationship to self. Been talking about this for years. It's coming to an end. It's going to start having a different energy once Uranus is in Gemini, but we're not there yet. So here we have the moon and Scorpio bringing up all of these types of soul level, emotional, psychological dynamics. And it's opposing Uranus and Taurus. Taurus, that Uranus is the ruler of Pluto. Pluto is ruling that is the ruler of that moon. This can be where something is really highlighted around how we're relating to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we, how we're needing to listen to ourselves. But it can also be for some people bringing up old traumatic events that now we're being confronted with how this has impacted us on an emotional, psychological level. And it can really highlight where different dynamics have affected our sense of self-worth, our self-esteem. And so it's wanting us to liberate from this. And then the trines to Saturn, the North Node, Neptune, again, it's really pulling in this promotion of healing. But how does this come through? Mars, retrograde, Cancer. I'm going to say it again. It's going to be these emotional triggers, and we're really needing to learn how to respond and not react. That way we can make good choices around, hey, this is the dynamic that I'm needing to throw off, to oppose. This is not who I want to be anymore. This is the past. This is also where we can really be confronted with dependencies on a soul level, entanglements, enmeshments. If it's not going on in your life, it can, present moment, it can really confront us with the impact that that had on us in the past whenever we were acting out these psychological behaviors. We could also be seeing this play out in the people close to us. And what it's doing is it's triggering a old memory from the past with all of the Aquarian, Uranian energy. And what that's doing is it's just saying, hey, this is being reflected so that way you can start to understand, maybe how far you have come or where you're still needing to improve in these areas. I've had even the experience lately of friends, Aquarius, Uranus, friends that have, it's so curious to me. And I'd be interested to see if any of you guys are experiencing this or have been. And I definitely think it's the Pluto Uranus energy and a bit of the Saturn and Pisces. Saturn and Pisces can make us like, it's like where we're not actually in touch sometimes with our own inner reality. Like we think that we've healed something or this or that. And then all of a sudden we're confronted with, like, I didn't even realize I was still doing this. So I've had this experience lately where I've had some people close in my life that are friends that are have either said things or acted things out, and it's reminding me, Saturn and Pisces reflection and then Aquarius observation. It's reminded me of things that I did a decade ago. Um, and what that's done, and it's where it's really clear that my these people in my life aren't recognizing that they're even doing certain behaviors. Um, it's like this dynamic of they've been doing so much work and they're like, uh, I've really gotten this down pat, and then they don't even realize that they're still doing some of the things that they feel like they're not doing. So because that's being reflected at like back to me, one, it's made me really self-reflect on how it reminds me of dynamics that I've worked on that are my own prior dynamics. But then what that's doing too is it's giving me this opportunity to really, instead of just looking at that, I'm like, well, this is being reflected. Like, is there something here within me that maybe I'm not recognizing that I'm still doing, even though I thought that I worked on it? And it's also in and true Piscean nature, it's also giving me an immense amount more of compassion for myself and for other people. Sometimes things are hidden. Sometimes we don't recognize our own illusions. Um, and it's really made me think about this Saturn and Pisces dynamic of having compassion with self and others, but needing to not forget that we still need to really self-reflect in order to be responsible with our own dynamics. And so with the grand trine between this Mercury, not Mercury, with the moon, the Pisces energy and Mars, to me, I feel like, and then the opposition to Uranus, it's like almost whatever's projected back in front of us is giving us this content of, or this opportunity to really self-reflect and ask ourselves these more Piscean questions, especially Saturn and Pisces, like, is this still occurring in me? Am I needing to look at something that I might not be aware about within myself, my emotional patterns, cycles, my psychology, um, how I'm relating to myself, because it's really showing through the Uranus and Taurus, like this is what I'm still attracting. Even if that's not affecting me, like it's still, I'm observing this go on. And then Venus in Aries, again, it goes back to this dynamic of there's this initiation of wanting us to relate differently, all of us. And so through having this compassion and even utilizing um, your environment, right? Moon, the environment, Cancer, really utilizing it as a teacher. It can help us to go deeper within ourselves. That way, it'll start to plant these seeds further of, okay, so now I'm having an aha moment, Aquarius, Uranus. I'm connecting my own dots. And so now I know what I can start working on that maybe once was hidden within me. And it's giving an opportunity to see where we might have been resisting things and not even realizing it. So I want us to utilize this energy deeply this week. I mean, and it can be around friends, extended family, community. The people that you have in your life are going to be cluing you into a lot of your own inner dynamics right now. So definitely utilize that as a tool. And then what I want to say is, here we go. On the 20th, Sophrosyne is at 23 degrees Aquarius, square to her ruler, Uranus and Taurus. Um, you know, again, repeating signatures of pulling in Mars, Venus, uh, and then Mercury is square to Jupiter, and in the day, there's going to be a T-square between the moon, Jupiter, and Mercury, and the moon is going to be opposing Jupiter, its ruler. So, and this is interesting too, because Mercury and the moon are in a last quarter square, and Uranus and Mercury, Jupiter and Mercury are in a last quarter square during this. So let's break this down. I'm going to start with the Mercury dynamic. Last quarter squares can be a crisis in consciousness, like a crisis in belief. I don't know what to believe. Mercury and Pisces can be where we're experiencing a disillusioning, dynamic that is really pointing to our mental constructs, our emotions, how we've even classified our own emotions, good, bad, wrong, right. And it's that square to Jupiter from Mercury is magnifying this for some of us to say, hey, what you've believed about your own inner dynamics might not be rooted in actual truth. It could be rooted in a belief around your conditioning. And so it's wanting us to expand our awareness and to expand our consciousness through acting on throwing off the old beliefs that could be illusionary in nature. And with the moon opposing Jupiter, its ruler, and squaring Mercury, it's going to take us to be extremely emotionally honest with ourselves to understand these dynamics. And then that way, healing can be promoted. So the other thing that I want to say is collectively that this can be a time at the end of the week where we're really being confronted with illusions around cognitive dissonance and people's duplicitousness. And this can be something that each one of us can be confronted with as well. So duplicitousness is kind of along the lines of, it's under the same umbrella as cognitive dissonance. For those of you who don't understand what cognitive dissonance is, it's where we can be acting one way. Let's look at values. Like we can be portraying different values externally, but on an internal level, we know that our values are very different. It can be where we are wanting to fit in with other people. You see this a lot in like school age kids, high schoolers. They're wanting to fit in with kids, but they know that they're not being authentic to themselves. For other people, the kind of darker aspect of this is they know that they're deceiving people, Pisces, and that behind closed doors that they're very, very different. And so they're not being authentic either. So this is like that duplicitous cognitive dissonance dynamic. again, there's this call with that moon and Sag to be extremely emotionally honest with oneself. A lot of us have experienced this duplicitous dynamic. I know that I have. I very much appeared one way for a very long time out of fear of persecution or being judged by different people in my life. And at some point, I got really tired of it and I just had to be my authentic self. Because essentially, whenever we are scared to show up authentically, we're actually living a living lie. And this is a call for us to, on, not everyone, but some people, to really throw off those dynamics, even if it's scary to show up authentically, but to really, you know, um, to not hide. Pisces can be so much about hiding. It's like, don't hide who you are anymore. The world needs more people who show up authentically. You don't want to be the person who's reflecting the dynamics that are going out that a lot of people are starting to recognize, even if it's not um, rooted in ill will. Like it's still, who wants to do that? That can become very disillusioning and where one can start to feel futile and a loss of hope and a loss of meaning because they're not showing up authentically. So there's a lot within this T square going on. And for other people, it's just, it can be confronting um, where they might be needing to speak from a compassionate place, but they're afraid to speak authentically out of fear of judgment. Um, so I want those of you who are needing to communicate something and are afraid to think about this. Is it true for you? If it is, that's okay. Have a sincere intention, and whatever needs to be communicated, when you are speaking honestly and sincerely, your truth doesn't need to be defended. It might not go the way that you want to. It might confront you with understanding that your perception or your belief about the situation or the person or whatever it may be, it might be confronted, but it's to actually um, give you an opportunity to make a honest choice about where you want or how you want to move forward. And that can't happen if we are hiding our own voice. Mercury and Pisces are not being authentic with ourselves by showing up in that way. Um, so I wanted to say that. And then with Sophrosyne and Aquarius at 23 degrees square to her ruler, Sophrosyne is about having temperance, balance, soundness of mind. And Sophrosyne to me so often correlates with Venus and Neptune. Um, and it really funnels into this dynamic of that T square that's happening. If we are wanting to relate to ourselves authentically and honestly on an emotional, psychological, holistic level, that Sophrosyne in Aquarius is wanting to objectify where we might not be promoting balance within ourselves. And then there's a need for us to liberate from that dynamic as well. Uranus and Sophrosyne are in a last quarter square as well. So this whole dynamic of I don't know what to believe, I'm afraid to show up authentically, I'm afraid to create action in this way. But Venus and Aries is really helping us, like it's like championing us to be courageous. Like you've got this. And whenever we utilize that Venus and Aries constructively and have the courage to throw off the past, that Sophrosyne is really speaking to how we can promote more balance and harmony and temperance and feel more sound within ourselves And how is that not going to transform how we inwardly relate to ourselves when we have the courage to go there, you know, to go against what is known or what is familiar? This can also be, again, it's an Aquarius. It can be where all of a sudden we're recalling memories from the past that have really had this experience of affecting our sense of self. And it's wanting, Sophrosine is wanting us to declutter that, to create action that moves us forward through liberation that will also promote healing in this area. So this week is, you know, I feel like the past couple of weeks, the common theme has been um, healing one's inner relationship to self, um, transforming how we relate to ourselves, becoming more self-reliant, more emotionally secure, cultivating how to find balance within, how to be authentic, how to be honest, um, how to live in one's truth. And it's like the astrology has been building each week around these dynamics, and it's gearing up for this Venus retrograde cycle. Um, and I would rather want to, and it's what I'm doing, act on these things now than later. You know, I don't, we want to be rooted in reality. It's like that Maya Angelou quote, like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Like, I would take this further. Like, when you're confronted with your own stuff, believe it. Don't make an excuse for it. Don't deceive yourself. Confront it. Sometimes that can be painful. Sometimes we can like realize things about ourselves that we don't want to realize. But whenever that comes into our awareness, instead of feeling shame or guilt, South Node in Virgo, utilize it as a catalyst to say, I really want to improve this because I want to show up in the world as who I feel that I am. And that's really this whole dynamic too with the Jupiter and Gemini coming up is like, no, and especially with the Pisces stuff, is like learning how to be impeccable. You know, how I show up in the world is a reflection of what's going on inside of me. They are matching. There's no hiding. There's no faking it. There's no um being this way and then behind closed doors being another way. It's very much aligning everything to be congruent so you can be impeccable. And we're seeing what's playing out in the world with many different areas of where that's not happening. I don't want to be reflecting that same energy. And this week gives us a huge opportunity to come into awareness around these areas that maybe we didn't realize were there. And it gives us an opportunity to make a choice. And that's something that I really like about this week. Um, so I hope that this has helped you. And definitely consciously utilize this energy. And until then, I will see you all later. Have a beautiful, beautiful healing week. Do not get down on yourself, please. If you are confronted with something about yourself, if you feel knocked down, like the wind was taken out of you, like, oh God, I didn't even realize like I was doing this or this is how I am, get up on the horse. Put one foot in front of the other. Give yourself grace, Pisces. And now that you've come into awareness, you have a choice. When we're not aware about something, we really don't have a choice. It gives us a beautiful opportunity to make a choice about who do I want to be? How do I want to heal? And that's what life is all about, is grabbing those opportunities of growth and not feeling victimized by our own choices or our own actions, but utilizing it to transform and to grow and to evolve. Because a lot of this is going to be coming up again throughout the Venus retrograde series cycle, excuse me. And it's because there's an acceleration of our evolution that's wanting to happen. And to me, I feel like it's an honor and a privilege when I can recognize something that was hidden in myself. And then it makes me feel really good and it helps and heals my own inner dynamics when I know that I'm doing what is right for me and I'm being in integrity and I'm not getting down on myself because I'm acknowledging that I'm a human and I'm fallible and I'm not perfect. And there are things, there's always room for improvement. And I actually like whenever I get the opportunity to be honest and to improve. And I hope that all of us, as things come up this week and throughout the next few months, we view it that way, that it's actually a gift. Um, because I feel like sometimes with Pisces energy, it can, especially Saturn and Pisces, in a South Node in Virgo, we can get trapped in futility, of victimization, shame, guilt, judgment of ourselves, of others. And when we're confronted with something about ourselves that maybe we denied or we weren't aware of, and then we're faced with the reality of who we are, we have to ask ourselves, what does that say about me? And sometimes that can feel really painful. But the way in which I've learned to mitigate shame and judgment is through grace and compassion of self and utilizing it as an opportunity for growth. And I hope that you all um, feel that way too. So, yeah, I'm done. I hope you have a beautiful week. And I can't wait to see more of you all. Um, I love reading your charts and answering your questions. And yeah, see you all soon.